Chapter 9 You Won't Get to Fly. Never had I heard words more soul-crushing. When the two of us re-entered the training room, Cobb pointed at a seat by the wall. Not a cockpit, just an empty chair. I slunk over and settled down, feeling thoroughly rooted. These contraptions, Cobb said, rapping his knuckles on one of the boxes in front of the mock pits, are holographic projectors, old technology from the days when we were a fleet. When these machines are on, you'll think you're in a cockpit. They will let us train you to fly without risking a real fighter. The simulation isn't perfect, however. It has some haptic feedback, but it can't replicate G-forces. You'll need to train in the centrifuge to accustom yourself to that. DDF tradition is that you get to pick your own call sign. I suggest you start considering, as you'll carry the name for the rest of your life. It will be how the most important people, your flight mates, come to know you. Jerkface's hand went up. Don't tell me now, Cadet, Cobb said. Any time in the next few days is fine. Right now I want to... The door to the room banged open. I leaped to my feet, but it wasn't an attack or an emergency. It was Rig, and he was wearing a cadet's pin. I was wondering if you'd show up, Cobb said, picking up his stack of papers. Raj McCaffrey, you think it's a fine idea to show up late to your first day in flight school? You're going to show up late when the Krell attack? Rig sucked in a breath and shook his head, going white, like a flag of truce. And Rig was a cadet. When he'd gone in last night to talk to them about his test, I'd been worried. It looked like he'd gotten in. I wanted to whoop for joy. But there was no way Rig would have been late without good reason. This was a kid who scheduled extra time in his day for sneezes when he had a cold. I opened my mouth, but held back at a glance from Cobb. Sir, Rig finally said, catching his breath. Elevator. Malfunction. Cobb walked to the side of the room and pushed an intercom button. Jax, he said. Will you check if there is an elevator malfunction today? Don't need a check, Captain, a voice replied through a speaker above the button. Elevator 103D was down for 2 hours. People trapped inside. It's been giving us trouble for months. Cobb released the button, denied Rig. They say you got the highest score on the test this year, Cadet. That's what they told me, sir. They called me in, and the Admiral gave me an award and everything. I'm so sorry I'm late. I didn't mean to do this, particularly on my first day. I about died when... Yeah, that'll do, Cobb said, waving toward one of the seats. Don't wear out my goodwill, son. Rig took the seat gladly, but then saw me on the side of the room and gave me a huge thumbs up. We'd made it. Both of us somehow, with Rig at the top, which was awesome. So at least the test really was fair for him. Cobb walked over to Jerkface's seat, then flipped a switch on the side of the box in front. A veil of light surrounded the mock pit, silent, shimmering, like a glowing bubble. From inside, Jerkface breathed out a soft, but audible, prayer to the North Star. I leaned forward in my chair. It can be disorienting, Cobb said, walking over and turning on Arturo's machine, then Ned's. Though it's no match for actually being in the air, it's a reasonable substitute. I waited, tense, as he went around the circle, flipping on devices one after another. Each cadet made some audible sign of appreciation. A little gasp, or a wow. My heart just about broke as Cobb turned away from the last empty seat and walked toward the front of the room. Then, as if remembering something he'd left behind, he looked over his shoulder at me. I nearly exploded with anticipation. Finally, he nodded toward the empty mock pit. I scrambled out of my seat and climbed in as he flipped the switch. Light flashed around me, and in the blink of an eye I seemed to be sitting in the mock pit, or cockpit of a Poco-class fighter, on a launch pad outside the building. The illusion was so incredible that I gasped, then stuck my hand outside the canopy just to be sure. The hologram wavered and fell apart into little grains of light, like falling dust, when my hand broke through it. I pulled my hand back in, then inspected the controls. A throttle lever, a dashboard full of buttons, and a control sphere for my right hand. The sphere was a globe I could palm, with grooves for my fingers and buttons at the tips. Outside the holographic cockpit canopy, I could see the other ships in a line beside a picture-perfect reproduction of Alta Base. I could even look up and see the sky, the faint patterns of the rubble belt. Everything. Cobb's mustachioed face broke through the sky, like one of the saints themselves, as he leaned in through the hologram to speak with me. You like the feel of this, Cadet? Yes, sir, I said. More than anything. Good. Don't lose it. I met his eyes and nodded. He backed away. All right, cadets, he said, his voice felt ghostly coming from seemingly nowhere. I don't waste time. Every day you're training is a day good pilots are dying in the fight without you as backup. Put on the helmets at your feet. I did so, and Cobb's voice now came through the earpiece inside my helmet. Let's practice takeoffs, he said. That should... Sir, Jerkface said, I can show them. I rolled my eyes. All right, flight leader, Cobb said. I'm willing to let someone else do the hard work for me. Let's see you get them into the sky. Yes, sir, Jerkface said. Flight. Your fighters don't need their boosters to raise or lower your altitude. That is handled by the acclivity ring, the hoop-like device underneath every starship. Its power switch is, top of the front console, the red button. Never turn that off when flying, or you'll drop like a piece of debris. One ship down the line suddenly lit up beneath as the acclivity ring turned on. Use your control sphere to bank right or left, Jerkface continued, or to make small movements. To do a quick ascent, use the smaller lever beside the throttle and pull it upward. Jerkface's starship lifted into the air in a steady ascent straight up. His ship, like the rest of ours, was a Poco class. They looked like glorified pencils with wings, but they were still starships, and I was in a cockpit. Holographically, kind of almost, but it was still happening. I flicked the red switch, and my entire dashboard lit up. I grinned, holding the control sphere in my right hand and yanking on the altitude control with my left. My ship sprang backward in a sudden jerking motion, and I managed to crash it into the building behind us. And I wasn't the only one. Our ships responded with far more sensitivity than we were expecting. Rig flipped his completely upside down somehow. Kimberlin darted up into the air, then screamed at the sudden motion and brought herself back down and flattened right on the launch pad. Altitude control only, Jerkface said. Don't touch the control sphere right now, cadets. Cobb chuckled from outside somewhere. Sir, Jerkface said, that... He fell silent. Huh. I was glad nobody could see how much I was blushing. I appeared to have crashed my ship into a holographic version of the flight school mess hall, judging by the tables and spilled food. I felt as if I should have whiplash, but while my chair shook a little when the ship moved, I couldn't replicate the true motions of flight. Congratulations, cadet, Cobb said. I'm pretty sure half of you are dead now. Thoughts, flight leader? I didn't expect them to be that hopeless, sir. We're not hopeless, I said, just eager. And maybe a little embarrassed, Kimberlin noted. Speak for yourself, a girl's voice said through my earpiece. What was her name again? Hidayah? The ponytailed girl with a loose jacket. She was laughing. Oh, my stomach. I think I'm going to hurl. Can I do it again? Again? Kimberlin asked. It was awesome. You just said you thought you were going to hurl. In a good way. How do you hurl in a good way? Attention, Cobb snapped. My ship buzzed around me, and suddenly all of us were back in line. Our ship's whole again. The simulation apparently reset. Like a lot of new pilots, you're not accustomed to how responsive your ships can be. With the power of the acclivity ring in your booster, you can perform precision maneuvers, particularly once we get you trained with light lances. That versatility comes at a cost, however. It's really easy to get yourself killed from the starship. So today, we're going to practice 3 things. Going up, coming down, and not dying while you do either. Got it? Yes, sir, came our chorus. You're also going to learn to control your radio. The set of blue buttons on the top left of your control panel manages that. You'll need to accustom yourselves to opening a line to the whole flight, or to your wingmate alone. We'll go over the other buttons later. I don't want you distracted right now. Stars only know how you can do worse than that little performance you just gave, but I'm disciplined enough to give you, or disinclined to give you the opportunity. Yes, sir, we built it out, somewhat sheepishly. And so, for the next 3 hours, we took off and landed. It was frustrating work because I felt like I should be able to do far more. I'd studied so hard and I'd practiced my mind. I felt like I knew this. Only, I didn't. My crash at the start proved that, and my continuing inability frustrated me. The sole way to overcome that was to practice, so I dedicated myself to the instruction. Up and down, time after time. I did it with gritted teeth, determined not to crash again. Eventually, we managed to make 5 trips up and down without crashing. As Cobb sent us up again, I leveled at 500 on the altimeter, then stopped myself there. I released a breath, leaning back as the other cadets joined me in a line. Jerkface soon passed and did a little flip before settling in. Show off. All right, flight leader, Cobb said. Call your flight roll and get a verbal confirmation of readiness from each member. You'll do this before every engagement, to verify that nobody is having mechanical or physical troubles. Flight, if you are experiencing troubles, tell your flight leader. If you fly into battle knowing something is wrong with your ship, then you are responsible for the damage you might cause. Sir, the master of the line, is it true that if we crash a real ship while in training, we can't graduate? Usually, Cobb said. If a cadet crashes their starfighter, it's a sign of some kind of negligence, the type that indicates they shouldn't be trusted with that kind of equipment. And if we eject, Bim said. I've heard that cadets do training in real combat situation. If we get shot down and eject, does it mean we're out? As a cadet, I mean. Cobb was silent for a moment. There's no hard and fast rule, he said. But it's tradition, right? Bim asked. A cadet who ejects and scuttles their ship stays grounded from then on. It's because they're looking for cowards, Padilla said. They want to kick out cadets who are too eager to eject. I felt a jolt of adrenaline, as I always did when someone mentioned the word coward. But it wasn't in reference to me, and never would be. I would never eject. Real pilots, said one of Jerkface's cronies, the best of the best, they can steer a crashing ship into a salvageable landing, even if they've been shot. Acclivity rings are worth so much that pilots have to protect them, because the pilot isn't worth as much as, that's enough, Arturo. Cobb cut in. You're spreading stupid rumors. Both pilots and ships are valuable. You cadets ignore that talk. You might hear it from other flights about steering your ship into a controlled landing. You hear me? If you're shot down, you eject. Don't worry about the consequences. Worry about your life. If you're a good enough pilot, it won't impact your career, tradition or no tradition. I frowned. That wasn't what I'd heard. Full pilots who got shot down, they were given second chances. But cadets? Why graduate someone who had been shot down when you're looking for only the very best? Stupid pilot pride, Cobb grumbled. It cost us more than the Krell have, I swear. Flight leader, weren't you going to call roll? Oh, right, Jurgen said. Cadet Flight B, time to... Cadet Flight B, Cobb said. You can come up with a better name than that, Flight leader. Yes, sir. Skyward Flight, I said. Skyward Flight, Jerkface said, jumping on the name. Roll call and confirmation of readiness, in order of dashboard ship identification. Skyward 2, said the taller of the two cronies. Callsign Netter, confirmed. Skyward 3, said Hidayah. Callsign Hurl, confirmed. Seriously? Jerkface said. Hurl? Memorable, isn't it? She asked. Jerkface sighed. Skyward 4, said Rig. Callsign, Rigmarole. Wow, it sounds good to say that. And, confirmed. Skyward 5, said Arturo, the shorter of the two cronies. Callsign, Amphisbaena. Amphi what? Hurl asked. It's a two-headed dragon, Arturo said. It's an extremely fearsome animal from mythology. Confirmed. Skyward 6, Kimlin said. So, Callsign. I need one of those, eh? Saint, I suggested. Oh, stars no, she replied. You can pick one later, Cobb said. Just use your first name for now. No, she said. Just call me Quick. No need to procrastinate my choice. The saint always said, save time and do that job now. How, Arturo said, does doing something now save you any time? Theoretically, the indicated job would take the same amount of time now as it would later. Tangent Amphi, Jerkwad said, or Jerkface said. Skyward 7. Skyward 7, said an accented girl's voice I didn't think I'd heard before. Callsign Morningtide. Confirmed. Wait, who was that? I racked my brain. The Vishian girl with the tattoo on her lower jaw, I realized. The one who brushed me off earlier. Skyward 8, said Bim. Bim. That's my name, not my call sign. I'll get back to you later. I don't want to screw it up. Confirmed, by the way. Skyward 9, said Freya, the tall blind girl. Call sign FM. Confirmed. She'd launched her ship the first time without crashing. the only one who had done that except for Jerkface and his cronies. Her expensive clothing and those golden clasps on her boots made me think that she must be from the lower caverns, too. Her family obviously had enough merits for fancy requisitions. Skyward 10, I said. Callsign spin. Confirmed. What a bland call sign, Jerkface said. I'll be Jaeger. It means hunter in one of the old... Can't be Jaeger, Cobb said. We already got a Jaeger. Nightmare flight. Just graduated 2 months ago. Oh, Jerkface said. I didn't know that. How about Jerkface? I said. That's what I've been calling you in my head. We can call you that. No, we can't. I heard a number of snickers, including one I was pretty sure came from Nedder Strong, the taller of Jerkface's cronies. All right, Cobb said, ignoring us. Now that you've done that, maybe we can talk about how to actually move somewhere. I nodded, eager, though I realized nobody could see me. Hold the throttle with a light touch, Cobb directed. Nudge it forward, slowly, until the dial says 0.1. I did so, timid, extra worried that I'd repeat my embarrassment from earlier. And I let out a breath as my ship moved forward at a modest boost. Good, Cobb said. You're now going 0.1 mag. That's a tenth of mag 1, which is normal combat speed. Even number designations. You lower yourselves 300 feet. You'd be more used to saying 100 meters, but it's tradition to use feet for altitude for some stunning reason, and you'll get used to it. Odd number designations, you go up 300. That will give you some space to try very slight moves to the left and right as you fly. I did as he said, diving down and leveling out. I tried a veer right and a veer left. It felt natural, like I was meant to do this, A series of loud alerts erupted. I jumped then, panicked. I searched my dashboard, worried I'd done something wrong. Finally, my brain put together that the sound wasn't coming from the ship, or even from our room. It was alarms outside the building. That's the attack warning, I thought, pulling off my helmet to hear better. The trumpet sounds were different up here in Alta, faster paced. I pushed my head up through the canopy of my hologram, and saw several others do the same. Cobb had stepped toward the window of our classroom, and was looking out toward the sky. I could barely make out some distant falling debris burning in the atmosphere. Krell attack. The speaker on the wall crackled. Cobb, Admiral Ironside's voice called out. Do you have those green Maz cadets hovering yet? Cobb walked to the panel on the wall and pushed a button. Barely. I'm still convinced one of them is going to find a way to make the ship self-destruct, even though Pocos don't have that function. Great. Get them up, spread formation, above Alta. Cobb glanced at us before pressing the buttons again. Confirmation request, Admiral. You want the new cadets in the sky during an attack? Get them up there, Cobb. This is a large wave. Nightmare flight is down in the city for R&R, and I don't have time to call them back. Ironside's out. Cobb hesitated, then he barked out an order. You heard the Admiral. Skyward flight to the launch pad. Go. Chapter 10. To the launch pad? Now? After 1 day of flight training? Cobb slammed a button on his desk, shutting down all our holographic emitters. I couldn't help wondering if this was some kind of test or a strange initiation, yet the pale look of Cobb's face persuaded me otherwise. He didn't like this. What in the stars was the Admiral thinking? Surely she wouldn't get my entire flight killed just as a retribution for Cobb letting me into the DDF. Right? We left the training room in a ragged jumble. Rig, I said, falling in beside my friend as we jogged down the hallway, alarms blaring in the distance. Can you believe this? Any of this? No, I still can't believe I'm here, Spin. When they called me in and told me about my score, I thought they were going to accuse me of cheating. Then the Admiral gave me an award and took some photos. It's almost as incredible as the way Cobb let you in after... Never mind that, I said quickly. I didn't want anyone overhearing that my circumstances were unusual. I glanced to the side and found Jerkface jogging a few paces away. He narrowed his eyes at me. Great. We burst out of the training building and gathered in the steps outside, right as a flight of Fresa-class starships launched into the sky. One of the on-duty flights. There were usually several of those, along with another flight or two that could be called up in emergency. So why did they need us? I didn't get it. Cobb emerged from the building and gestured to a line of 10 Poco-class fighters in the nearby launch pad. Ground crew were positioning ladders by them. On the double, Jerkface shouted. To your ships. Everyone remember your number? Kimlin stopped in place. You're 6, Quirk, Cobb said. It was actually quick. Get going, you fools, Cobb yelled. You're on orders. He glanced at the sky. A set of sonic booms exploded from the ship that had taken off earlier. Even though they moved far out, the booms still rattled the windows. I hurried to my ship, climbed the ladder to open the cockpit, then stopped. My ship. A member of the ground crew climbed up the ladder after me. You getting in? He asked. I blushed, then hopped into the cockpit. He handed me a helmet, then leaned in. The ship is straight out of repairs. You use it when you're on orders, though it's not 100% yours. You'll be sharing it with a cadet in another flight until enough wash out. I pulled on my helmet and gave him a thumbs up. He climbed down and pulled the ladder away. My cockpit's canopy closed, then sealed. I sat there in silence, collecting my breath, then reached forward and tapped the button that engaged the acclivity ring. The dash lit up, and a hum vibrated through the ship. That hadn't been in the simulation. I glanced to the side, toward the mess hall I'd crashed into not 4 hours ago. Don't stress. You just did this 100 times, Spencer. But I couldn't help thinking about what we discussed earlier. The cadets who'd crashed or ejected weren't, by tradition, allowed to graduate. I gripped the altitude control and waited for the others, or for orders. Then I blushed again and pushed the blue button that turned on the radio. Anyone wave at her, maybe? Arturo's voice came through my helmet. FM, can you see? Spin, checking in, I said. Sorry. All right, flight, Jerkface said. Lift off, smooth and easy, like we practiced. Straight up 1,500 feet, then hover. I gripped the controls and found my heart thundering inside my chest. First time into the sky. Go. I lifted my Poco into a vertical ascent, and it was glorious. The sense of motion, the press of G-forces pulling me down, the view of the base shrinking beneath me, the open sky welcoming me home. I leveled off right when the altimeter read 1,500. The others gathered in line next to me, stark blue acclivity rings glowing underneath each ship. In the far distance, I saw flashes of light from the battle. Flight roll, Jerkface said. All 9 of us confirmed back to him. Then we fell silent. Now what? I asked. Trying to call in for orders, Jerkface said. I don't know the band I'm supposed to. I'm here, Cobb's voice said over the radio. Looking good, cadets. That's a damn near perfect line. Except for you, Quirk. Quick, sir, Kimlin said. Indeed, her ship had gone up maybe 50 feet above the rest of us. And I'm just gonna sit tight right here, snug and happy I didn't crash into anyone. As the saint said, ain't nothing wrong with being a little wrong once in a while. Fair enough, Cobb said. But I've orders from Flight Command. Flight leader, lead your flight up 2,000 feet, then throttle to .2 mag, and head carefully out past the city. I'll tell you when to stop. Right, Jerkface said. Everyone, 2,000 and hover. And I want you to stop sharp this time. Quirk. Sure thing, Jerkface, she replied. He cursed softly as he went up higher, high enough that the city below looked almost like a toy. I could still see the flashes in the distance, though the falling debris was more dynamic, streaks of red fire and trailing smoke falling right through the battlefield. Per Cobb's instructions, we inched our throttles forward and engaged the boosters. And just like that, I was flying. Really flying for the first time. It wasn't fast, and I spent most of it sweating and overly cautious about my every movement. A part of me was still in awe. It was finally happening. We flew out toward the battlefield, but before we'd gotten very far, Cobb called again. Halt it there, cadets, he said, sounding more relaxed. I've been given more information. You aren't going to fight. Problem with the elevators caught us with their pants down. One of the flights that was supposed to be on reserve got stuck below. They'll relieve you soon. Until then, the Admiral wants to make it seem like we have more reinforcements than we actually do. She sent you and another flight of cadets to hover close outside the city. The Corel won't fly in and risk engaging what they assume are fresh ships. I nodded, slowly, remembering one of Gran Gran's lessons. All warfare is based on deception, Sun Tzu had said. When we are able to attack, we must seem unable. When we are near, we must make our enemy believe we are far away. When far away, we must make him believe we are near. it made sense to use a few dummy flights to worry the Krell. Sir, Jorgen said, can you tell us what is happening on the battlefield? So we can be ready, just in case. Cobb grunted. You all passed the test, so I assume you can tell me the basic Krell attack strategy. I started to answer, but Arturo beat me to it. When debris starts crashing down, he said, speaking quickly, the Krell often use the fall to mask the radar signatures. They fly low, underneath our larger AA guns, and try to approach Alta. If they arrive, they can drop a Lifebuster bomb. I shivered. A Lifebuster would not only vaporize everyone in Alta, shields or no shields, it would collapse the lower caverns, burning Igneous and destroying the apparatus. The Krell don't always use a Lifebuster, though, I said, jumping in. Those take a special, slow-moving bomber to carry them. They must be expensive or difficult to make or something, because the Krell often retreat if the bomber is threatened. Most of the time, the Krell and the DDF fight over the falling debris. It often contains salvageable acclivity stone, which we can use to make more starfighters. I suppose you might be right, Arturo said, sounding dissatisfied, but he asked for their basic strategy. The basic strategy is to try to destroy Alta. 3 out of 4 skirmishes never involve a Lifebuster, I said. We think they're trying to wear us down, destroy as many ships as possible, since it's harder for us to replace them than it is for the Krell. All right, Cobb said, cutting in. You two can show off for each other later. You're both very smart. Now shut up. I sat back in my cockpit, uncertain if I should feel complimented or insulted. That seemed a common mix of emotions when dealing with Cobb. Nobody in today's battle has seen a Lifebuster bomber, Cobb said. That doesn't mean one couldn't approach. Today's debris field does contain a lot of machinery with old acclivity rings. Ha! I thought. I was right. I looked to see if I could spot Arturo to gloat, but couldn't make him out in the lineup of ships. Sir, Jerkface said, something has always bothered me about the way we fight. We respond to the Krell, right? When a debris fall comes, we fly out to check it. If we find Krell, we engage them. Generally, yes. So that means we always let them pick the battlefield, Jerkface said. Yet the way to win in war is to surprise the enemy, to keep them off balance, to make them think we're not going to attack when we will, and vice versa. Someone's been reading a little too much Sun Tzu, Cobb said. He fought in a different era, flight leader, and with very different tactics. Shouldn't we at least try to bring the fight to the Krell? Jerkface asked. Attack their base beyond the debris field, wherever it is. Why does nobody talk about that? There are reasons, Cobb said, and they're not for cadets. Stay focused on your current orders. I frowned at that, acknowledging grudgingly that Jerkface had asked good questions. I looked over my shoulder at the green proliferation that was Alta. Another thing struck me as strange. Cobb was an expert pilot, and a first citizen. He'd flown in the Battle of Alta. If reserves were needed, even the illusion of them, why hadn't he come up here with us? We sat quietly for several minutes. So, Bim said over the line, anyone want to help me pick a call sign? Yeah, Jerkface said. I need one too. I thought we already decided on yours, Jerkface, Ned said. You cannot call your flight leader something embarrassing, Jerkface said. Why not? Pearl asked. What was the famous pilot with a name about gas or broken wind? I said, one of the first citizens. She only recently retired, and she was an amazing pilot. 130 kills, an average of 20 engagements a year. I'm not going by Jerkface, Jerkface said. That's an order. Sure thing, FM said. Jerkface? I smiled, looking out of my cockpit toward FM's ship right beside mine. Had she known him before? Thought I could pick out a hint of an accent to her voice, the same one that laced the voice of the 3 boys. Rich people accents from the lower caverns? What was her story? Lights continued to flash in the distance, and I found myself itching to grab the throttle, engage overburn, and send my ship blasting toward it. Pilots were fighting, maybe dying, while I just sat here. What kind of a warrior was I? The kind that crashed into the mess hall the first time she turned her engines, I thought. Still, I watched those flights. I tried to imagine the battle and squinted to try and catch a glimpse of a Krell ship. I was still shocked when I saw one streaking toward us. I've seen hundreds of depictions of ships in art. Small, bulbous, had a strangely unfinished look, with wires trailing behind like tails. It had a small, opaque black cockpit. Most Krell ships exploded completely when damaged, or when they crashed. But in some few, we recovered burned-out remnants of the wicked armor they wore. Never an actual Krell, though. Jerkface, I said. Don't call me Jorgen, flight leader, whatever. Look at your 11, down about 200 feet. You see that? He cursed softly. Hurl said, All right, the game is on. It's not a game, Hurl, Jerkface said. Instructor Cobb. Here, what is it? Krell ship, sir. It looks like it flew low, under AA gun range, and it's heading for Alta. Cobb didn't respond immediately. I sat, sweating, hands in my controls, trailing that ship with my eyes. Flight Command knows about it, Cobb reported. Your replacements are climbing into their ships now. They should get here soon. And if they're not fast enough, I asked, what if the ship has a lifebuster? Flight Command has visual ID on its spin, Cobb said. The ship isn't a bomber. A single ship can't do that much damage. Respectfully, sir, I disagree, Jorgen said. While the base is shielded, it could fire on the farmers with destructors, kill dozens before it's... I know the capabilities of the damn Krell, boy. Thank you. Cobb took a deep breath. It's close? Yes, sir. Getting closer. Silence over the line. Then finally, you may engage. But stay on the defensive. No grandstanding, cadet. I want you distracted until the reinforcements get into the air. I nodded, nervous sweat slicking the sides of my head, inside my helmet. I got ready to fly. I'm on it, sir, Jerkface said. Netter, you're my wingmate. Roger, Jorg, Ned said. 2 ships broke out of our line, and before I knew it, I grabbed my throttle and zipped after them. Spin, Jerkface said. Back into line. You need me, I said. The more of us there are, the more likely we'll be able to scare the thing off and back toward the real fighters. And she'll need a wingmate, Earl said, pushing out of line and tailing me. No, Jerkface said. Everyone else should stay in line. Take her, Cobb said. Hurl and Spin, you're with the flight leader and his wingmate, but the rest of you hold position. I don't want you slamming into each other up there. Jerkface fell silent. Together, the 4 of us flew in an intercept course, picking up speed, moving and cut in front of the enemy fighter before it could get too close to Alta. And I was worried we wouldn't reach it in time, that it would zip right past us. I needn't have been so worried, because the moment we drew close enough, it swooped around and came straight for us.